What is going on, Stephanie?
What's up?
Hey, so welcome to the All Things Do Hard Things. I don't know what we're going to call this yet. I'm going to create a podcast. I'm going to throw it on there, and I'll have a really cool intro. But this is the second edition of this, and we'll come up with a cool intro at some point. But the bottom line is, what I envision is just I want to have conversations with people that are doing difficult things, that are getting after life, that are looking at self-improvement. And I love connecting with other people that are like-minded, that want to challenge themselves, that want to push the limits. And you're one of those people that we've been friends for a long time. I consider you like you're one of my inner circle friends, but you do so many cool things. Like we did the 75 Hard journey last year together. We met through Team Red, White, and Blue, which we'll talk about here. And Stephanie is just all around awesome person. She's originally from California. She's her husband used to be in the Marine Corps, and that's how they ended up here at Fort Leonard Wood in the same neighborhood. He'd gotten out and is currently working as a law enforcement instructor. And Stephanie's mother of two. She is a certified Block 1 strength and conditioning coach with Power Athlete. Did I get that right this time?
It's a mouthful. Oh, good. Awesome. It is. It's a lot. Yeah.
Co-captain of the Team Red, White, and Blue chapter here at Fort Leonard Wood. And she's also the after-school coordinator and strength and conditioning coach at Lakeway School District. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
No. I'm
bottom line,
chaos
coordinator extraordinaire. So it does a really good job of managing so many different hats and roles, and always in a position of self-improvement, giving back, covering down, mom duties, just does it all. Just really absolutely inspiring. So I'm glad to have you on today. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about your journey with 75 Hard and some of the other things the cool things that you do with Team Red, White, and Blue. Talk a little bit about Power Athlete. I was introduced to Power Athlete last year by going to Parabellum. I absolutely love the program, and you're a coach, so I'd like to pick your brain about that. And then just talk about, just life in general. So I guess tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do. I guess we'll start off with Power Athlete. How did you get involved in that? What is Power Athlete for those that don't know? And yeah, tell us about that.
So Power Athlete is a worldwide strength and conditioning platform. So started by John Welborn. He is a 10-year NFL veteran. And he got out of the NFL and decided, hey, I really have a pool of knowledge. So he got into what's called CrossFit football. He helped design their programs for CrossFit football. Him and the CrossFit realm kind of parted their ways, and he decided, we're going to dominate the world, and we're going to put together solid strength conditioning programs. I actually heard about it from Todd at Parabellum. Have been training under Todd since 2014, so for a long time. And Todd started digging into it, a lot of CrossFit football, and they came out with this thing called the methodology course. And so essentially they took all of their wealth of knowledge. It's John, Tex, and Luke. They're the three main guys that run the entire program. And they came out with a methodology course. So you sit down, and it's, hundreds of hours of videos and a book edition as well. You have to go through your videos, answer questions. You have to test at a certain percentage. And then if you get a certain percentage, they invite you down to Texas, where you go and you essentially put yourself on the line. And you say, hey, I'm here. I'm knowledgeable. It's a whole weekend of events. And at the end, you either get a block or you don't. And typically somebody will fail, or multiple people will fail in any class. But once you have that, you kind of are opened up into this platform of coaches from across the entire world. There's only about 150 Block 1 coaches in the entire world. So it's great, though. It's all about different platforms for performance. So whether you are someone who has no idea about strength training whatsoever, or you're somebody who's like military or law enforcement, if you're somebody who wants to get really big and jacked, if you're somebody who wants to just kind of become an able-bodied person, there's a number of platforms for all of it. So what I really like about it is that, there's really good structure, and there's really good understanding of why we move our bodies a certain way and how we work together and put movements together to help us kind of empower that performance.
Yeah, it's functional fitness. And what I like about it, because I've been to CrossFit gyms and I appreciate CrossFit, but what I like about the methodology, from my understanding, and the only, I've been coached by Coach Todd and then yourself and the crew there. But what I like about it is that, we're slowing the pace down. There's a reason for everything that we do. And it's really, do a really good job of like critiquing your format and giving you the reasoning for the movements. And I appreciate that. And as an endurance athlete, a runner, a cyclist, we're preparing for the MR 340 last year, which didn't happen. It really, I got a lot of benefit. You really maximize your time. I really felt like I got really strong in a short amount of time with the programming. So I really appreciate it.
And I think that's part of it. There's a reason behind every movement that you do, right? So there are 7 primal movements, and when you put them all together, based on whatever your sport or training model is, the idea is that you work backwards from your sport. So when you can understand why, like, hey, why do I have to do step ups, and why are we breaking them down, and we explain it and you break it down into a way that matters to your sport, that really helps. Because if it's like, hey, why do I have to do a step up? Well, just because you have to for the next 50 reps, you're like, this doesn't make sense though. So the ability to break it down and make it work for whatever it is you're doing. We have a lot of like Jenny Sherman. She's one person that is a very fast runner, and she's an endurance runner, and she's, she has that. But coming into Parabellum and working with Todd and him explaining to her, like, our muscles, that is so incredibly important for our body to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And maybe you're not going to lift incredibly heavy because you're running a marathon this weekend, but let's work on getting your base level of strength high enough to when you're running, you're not so fatigued. So I think that really helps us.
Yeah. No, I don't think really whatever discipline that you're in, this methodology will really enhance your strength and overall fitness. And there's a flexibility component as well. So it's total package. I really like the methodology. What got you in? So we met through Team Red, White, and Blue. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Red, White, and Blue is, what you do for them, and what you guys are currently working on?
So Team Red, White, and Blue is a international nonprofit veterans organization. So long story short, they want to take their veterans and their community members and they want to blend them together. And they want to do that by physical and social and community service. So any of those 3 things, what they found with Team Red, White, and Blue is when a lot of people transition either to a new military installation or out of the military, they kind of lose that sense of camaraderie and belonging. And so with something like the Team Red, White, and Blue platform, you have like-minded individuals that want to either get out and get active or get back and give back into their community. And sometimes it's just a little social platform of meeting up and playing bingo that kind of pulls people out of that rut of maybe staying home. So we actually started with the local chapter here in 2014. It was right after we had moved here. And since then have just continued to be a part of it. I think Fort Leonard Wood's really unique in that we don't have a lot of stuff around us. So we're not surrounded by a very large city. I like that because we get very involved with our community. And so I think that's a really, really cool thing and a really cool and unique, I think it's really unique about our chapter. We have a great relationship with our community. We're pretty invested like on the base itself, but even out in town, I think that's been a really cool part of it. So I help run the chapter with Bree Sides and our team of leaders. We essentially are just kind of the behind the scenes people. So we like events, but we kind of take care of all the behind the scenes stuff. If they've got some national events coming or virtual events, we're taking phone calls on that. If we go to a pub run, we're doing all the behind the scenes stuff. So really, we're just kind of the ones behind to make sure that everybody has the support they need to be successful. And that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, what I love about Team Red, White, and Blue and what attracted me to the organization was, as a veteran, there's not your primary veteran organization like the American Legion, VFW. They're great organizations, but oftentimes, there are events that they have. But what I like is the physical fitness component. I like the fact that we just meet up and we just do some type of workout. Everyone, commonality amongst all the branches of military is physical fitness. And oftentimes a lot of people, they end up leaving the service and they kind of let that go by the wayside for whatever reason. And this kind of gets, us back involved in fitness. It's another thing that I really appreciated about it is that it's open to civilians, so civilians can join. And we have a military civilian divide in our country. Back during World War II, the entire country was invested in the war, right? Everyone knew someone deployed, or you were working or you were, rationing. Everyone was involved in that. When Afghanistan and Iraq came around and the sustained combat, I think I'd have to look up the statistics, but I want to say it was 1 and maybe 150 knew someone that had deployed, and we're very much disconnected. And we've kind of become a little bit disconnected as a society from our military. And this is a great way to kind of bridge that gap. And then as veterans leave, like you said, they go back to their local communities. They're missing that camaraderie. This is a way to link back up. And what I have learned, I can go to St. Louis and go link up with the Team Red, White, and Blue chapter there. And I've linked up with them before our big run. After I remember one of the last events that I've been to before COVID was the one of the rock and roll marathons. Ended up at someone's house, like one of the chapter leaders' house. There's a bunch of us there. Like we had breakfast and just we're hanging out. And made friendships that way. I can go to Columbia, Missouri. You can go to another big event. Someone wear an RWB shirt. You instantly have like this camaraderie, like common theme. And that's what I love about it. It's very welcoming and open. And it's open to civilians. And it's a way for me to get my daughters involved, my triplet girls. And it's very patriotic. I love the flag. And usually you see someone out there carrying the flag. So all of those things. It's a great organization.
And I think what I really like about it too is, like you said, it opens up the world of physical and social activities. So I don't personally care to run. It hurts my hips a lot, but you don't have to run. And I think that that's the big one. We try to break through that common misconception of you have to be a runner to join Team Red, White, and Blue. You don't have to run. We have people that love to do yoga, which I think is important for everybody's body. We have people that love to do functional fitness, strength training. One of our local community members, he's a Marine Corps veteran. They host Red, White, and Blue powerlifting meet every October. He loves what Team Red, White, and Blue does. And it's a whole different realm of, hey, you've got powerlifters that are out here learning about a veteran organization at a meet. Cyclist. Fort Leonard Wood is huge for cycling. Like that's such a big community. So I think that's really neat for me too, is that you have the opportunity. We have trail runners and hikers and ruckers, and you have people that want to just get together and play cornhole. You have people that want to go to bow and barrel and do shooting sports. You have people that want to go out and shoot their bows. Finding like-minded people that want to get out and do things like that, I think is really cool too, because you don't have to run. You don't have to be a marathoner or somebody who runs a 5K to join this organization. One of my favorite events is Taco Tuesday, because we sit after work and we just talk. So
I love the social events, and ultimately that's how we got connected. And we're going to talk about 75 Hard in the community there, but really, you, me, Craig, the ones that are kind of leading this, we all met through Team Red, White, and Blue ultimately.
Yeah.
And I for one have really appreciated that, and I appreciate what the organization is doing across the board. And so if you're watching this and you want to connect with other veterans, and it doesn't matter what your fitness capability is, go to teamrwb.org and register, find your local chapter, and get involved. It's a great way to get involved with the veteran community for sure. So I guess this would be a good time. Let's segue into 75 Hard. Now we're starting another group. We basically have a Facebook group for 75 Hard, more for accountability. 75 Hard, just to kind of recap what that is. 75 Hard was founded. It's a program developed by Andy Frizella, who it's basically just a 75 days to develop mental toughness and discipline. There's a lot of people that are doing this. If you look up the hashtag 75 Hard, you will find it. This is we did this together last year in a small accountability group, which is kind of slowly morphed. And with COVID, the holidays, and people getting ready to start the New Year's resolution. We're kind of trying to get another group to take through. So one of the reasons for this call is to kind of maybe talk about 75 Hard, what it is. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to hear more about your journey and your big takeaways from it. But just to recap what 75 Hard is: 5 tasks over 75 days. You miss one of these tasks, you got to start over. First task is just a daily progress photo. You wake up, just snap a photo of yourself. You don't have to share it with anyone. It's basically just at the end of the 75 days to kind of see your progress along the way. Read 10 pages of a personal development book. So just something that's going to fuel your mind, something positive, just a quick nugget, just a quick takeaway. You're going to choose a diet. What I love about 75 Hard is you get to choose your own adventure. You get to pick the diet, but no cheating. You just can't cheat. Left and right limits, no alcohol. 2 45-minute workouts. 1 must be outdoors. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. Obviously, if it's lightning outside and you're, in a hurricane, probably got to be smart about that. But the goal of that is to ultimately, especially in the Midwest, and we have some folks that are in Canada, the weather conditions in the fall and winter can be very tough and challenging. And you still have to get the task done anyway. So that's the purpose of it, is to develop grit and resiliency. And then finally, drink 1 gallon of water, 1 gallon of water a day. So that's it. It's just those 5 simple tasks over 75 days that will fundamentally change your life. So ultimately, I guess my question to you is going to be, why did you choose to take on this challenge last year?
Because of Craig. So, Craig, I know Craig's the beginner for a lot of people, but he had called me when he was in Kentucky, and he's like, "Hey, I think I want to do this challenge. It's 75 days." And I always like doing stuff like that, like challenges, things that kind of, all right, whatever. And he's like, "But I'm making an accountability group, and I want people that want to be on this thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." He's like, "Are you in? Are you in?" I'm like, "Sure, bro, I guess, whatever." So I started looking it up, and I'm like, oh, 5 tasks. Like, the only thing that I'm thinking hard is like, I'm gonna have to pee a lot. Like, I'm a mom, and I have mom bladder, and I'm gonna wake up 17 times in the middle of the night, have to go to the bathroom. But I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, no big deal. And so Craig's like, I'm gonna start on January 1st. Sweet, me too. Start on January 1st. Craig's like, I'm gonna start on January 2nd. And I was like, what the heck? I'm traveling. It's going to be hard for me to eat my food. And I'm like, well, screw you. I'm starting on the 1st so I can finish faster. Right? Like, whatever. So like Craig invited me, started a little group, talked in this group a lot. Like, yeah, we could totally do this. And then day 1, I'm like, all right, let's go. And it's kind of how it started. And I was like bound and determined in my brain, I'm not starting over. And if I fail for whatever reason, like failure, it wasn't an option to me. So like, I will start and I will complete. And well, I live in the Midwest, and in January and February of last year, it was pretty crappy weather conditions. We had days of sleet and days of snow. I remember coming in and my eyelashes were frozen. I had like my hair, I would like bundle it up. But I would call Craig and I'd be like, bro, this is ridiculous. I don't want to ruck at 10 o'clock at night. And he's like, Stephanie, oh, well. I'm like, okay. So I would talk to him on the phone as I'm rucking and I'm walking and it was actually like one of the things I think I took away more than anything was I really enjoyed that 45 minutes where I was outside with one of my dogs, listening to a podcast, moving, decompressing at the end of the day. I was like, man, this is great, because I had already gone to the gym. I go to the gym in the morning anyways, so that's no big deal. But it was, well, how the heck do I fit in this second 45-minute workout, right? Like, anybody that knows me knows that I'm a time blocker, and I block my time. And I'm like, man, I already get up, get my kids ready, take them to school, turn around, go back to the gym, turn around and go back to work. And then depending on what time of year it is, my kids are in some type of a sport. So during this time they were in wrestling. Well, then we're going to go to wrestling practice. And then after wrestling practice, we're going to go home and try to eat dinner and then put them to bed. And then where am I supposed to fit in my outdoor workout?
Yeah, it's just as much of an exercise and time management as anything else, really. And so what was
your... And that's where I figured that out.
Yeah. Did you have any restarts in the first 75?
What was my what? Nope.
No restarts. Good.
I did not restart. Nope. I had it, I had it sitting on my fridge. I'm a visual learner, so I visually put it on my fridge, and I would make sure that every night before I went to bed, I could like cross it off. And there were nights where I was chugging 50 ounces of water before I went to bed, just so that I could like, because I was like, no, I'm not starting over. So no, I did not have any start overs in my 75 hard. And I think that was, I don't know, for me, that's where that whole, like, that failure is not an option. Because if I give myself the option, like, well, I'll just start over, I didn't want that. So I told myself, like, you will not start over.
How did your family take to it, given that you're already so busy? Lorenzo had to, he had to provide some support. So what was the support like with him and then your kids, and how did you balance that?
What's really interesting is that he was probably one of the ones that was the most supportive, because he knew it was something that I wanted to accomplish. So if I would come home and we would be done with wrestling, the kids would get in bed or whatever, and he'd be like, hey, are you going to go on your walk? And I would like throw this temper tantrum. I don't want to walk. And he's like, all right, well, then you're going to fail and you're going to start over. And I was like, fine. And I would like grab my stuff and I would like storm out of the house. And then I'd come back and I'd be like, thank you for reminding me that I needed to walk. He did it frustrate him sometimes? Yeah, because it does mean that I have to, if we get home late, well, then crap, I have to, I still have to walk, or I still have to. There were some days where I went outside and I programmed a workout for myself, and I just did a workout outside. Like there was one day where I did yoga outside, right outside of my front porch area, so that I was outside doing my workouts. But, for the most part, the boys ask sometimes, Mom, can we go on a walk with you? Sure. It was a good way for us to do family walks or get the dogs out. And really what I ended up doing is, on the days the boys had wrestling practice, I would drop them off because it's a closed practice, and I would take myself outside and I'd walk the Waynesville high school parking lot for 45 minutes. And I would let the coaches know, like, I'm right outside if you need me, but I've got to get this outdoor workout in. So I would walk these, 45 minutes. And if you look at some of my Stravas, it was, the same loop. And people would look at me like, what the hell are you doing? I got to get this workout done. Like, and same when the boys did soccer, it's, one soccer loop, and you're the mom that walks in this soccer loop 800 times. But the boys would be like, are you going to walk during our practice? I'm like, yeah. So that way you guys focus on your practice. They're like, okay. Yeah. So they would make sure that, I was following through. So they were actually, Lorenzo's really supportive. It's not something that he has any desire to do right now. But he has always supported me when I want to do these kind of challenges. So I think that's been really helpful. I don't know that I would have been as successful with it if I didn't have him and Jared and Luke's support.
Yeah, having that accountability for sure is definitely important, especially the support of your significant other, that are helping you, that you're living with them and you're trying to balance all of your duties. You got to have that support. It's interesting. Everyone has a story of like how people looked at them kind of crazy. They had to do something because they're just crunched for time. I remember the day that I was traveling, I was flying. I was in this small terminal. I don't even know where we were, but it was a really small terminal. My Strava has, I don't know, probably did like 30, 40 laps in this little terminal with my backpack and my suitcase. And people were looking at me like I was absolutely nuts, but I got it in. And it is something that I'll never forget. As silly as it was, I probably would have sat and just drank a beer and it would have been a forgettable moment, but I'll always remember, walking the terminal and doing that thing. But that's what's most of 75 hard isn't hard, but you have those moments and those days where you're trying to jam it in and it's just very difficult. Describe like your most challenging day that you could remember. What made it challenging? What stood out to you?
So I really struggled for about a week. And it was right at that 50-ish day window, right? I was really good in the beginning. I was motivated. I was ready to go. My personal choice of food, right? I wasn't tracking my macros. I was doing, we have that little old fresh start like challenge, basically kind of clean eating. My family eats whatever I cook. So that worked out for me too. But you're going through the motions, you're on these things. And I just remember there was a week where I was just so unmotivated. And I hit that wall, and I'm like, I really don't care if I fail. And, I'm like, I just don't want to. I didn't feel well. There've been days where I've had like migraines, or I get like really bad sinus pressure headaches. I'm like, I don't want to do this. But I would call like my friends, like I would text you, there were days where I would text me like, Jay, I'm done. And you're like, get up and go. And I'd be like, fine, and so I think that's, I don't know that I had any one moment where I was like, I'm done, but I think it was like a culmination of like 5 to 7 days where I was like, I'm tired of doing this. Like, I'm over it, like people are dumb for doing this thing, and I was like, and you and I talked about this a little bit, I didn't share my journey with a lot of people. I got really weird about that, and I just didn't want people to know that I was on this journey, and I only shared it with very few. Part of me wishes I would have shared it with more people so that I could have had more people like keeping me accountable in that same sense. But I think even having those 3 or 4, like you and Craig and Katie and even like Lorenzo, like, hey, you've made it this far, like keep going. I think that was really helpful. I think that really pushed it. And when it's cold outside, it's really hard to be motivated to go. But it's the first, 5 minutes out the door. Once your body's warmed up and you're moving, it's not as bad, but it's that initial, it's 70 degrees in my house and it's 15 degrees outside. I really don't want to walk in the dark for the 7th day in a row type mentality. And so I just had to turn it off. Turn it off. You can't control it. Get over it. I don't care that it's snowing. Put your boots on and take your butt outside. And that's kind of where, my biggest takeaway is it has made me more mentally sound. You cannot control the conditions that you're put in. And I think 2020 has kind of set us all up for that. But having that mindset of like, turn it off and go do what you have to get done so that you're finished with it. I think that is probably my biggest like pull away from 75 hard.
Yeah, there's those moments where, you just don't want to do it. And that's where the growth comes in. That's where the growth, like, you have that conversation with yourself, like, I really don't want to do this. I could quit. Not many people know that I'm doing this. So, why? It wouldn't be a big deal to quit, right? But then you talk yourself through that and you want to be better. It's tapping back into that, remember why you started to begin with, that enables you to get going. And then, once you lace up your shoes, you put your coat on and you get out there and you get after it, like 5 minutes into it, okay, we're back at this again, not a big deal. But you just have these moments where you're just like, you got to overcome that self-talk and that doubt.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me.
Did you have so you didn't tell many people, was it so a lot of people, they take on a new challenge or a goal and they don't tell many people because they've developed over the years the habit of quitting. And if you don't tell many people, they won't, the impact isn't there. People aren't going to remind you. If you tell more people and people are going to ask you about it, you don't want to show up as a failure, right? So I guess let's tap, if you don't mind, let's tap into that methodology. Like, why didn't you tell many people to begin with?
So, growing up, my mom was a huge, like, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And these are my expectations. And my biggest fear in the whole wide world is failure and disappointment, right? Like that is, I do not like to disappoint people. I do not like to fail. And so, not that I thought I would fail 75 hard. But even growing up, I was like, man, I don't want to tell somebody and have this innate fear of failure. Right? Like, I don't want to disappoint somebody because I couldn't complete the task at hand. And that was a really big one for me. And then honestly, Craig and Jay, we talked about this before, like, people talk about you, but it doesn't matter, but I didn't want to listen to people talk about me or my journey. I didn't want to hear people talk about me. Oh, she's doing that 75 hard and she's posting about it, 5 times this week. And like, we get to, I didn't want that. It wasn't something that I even wanted to hear. And part of me wishes that now, like, I would have posted about it because it's a cool journey. And in the future, like, I will, like, when I do 75 hard again, because I will do it again, I will post about it because it does keep you accountable. But that was a big one for me. Like, I didn't want to hear people talk about it. And that's my own personal, like, I struggle with that personally, that I just have a hard time. But I'd read something not too long ago and it was like, people are going to talk, they're going to look at you through a lens anyways. And so it doesn't really matter because they're looking at you through a lens of what they have going on in their lives anyways. So, whether you do something or not, somebody is going to have something to say about your progress. And it really doesn't matter. So, continue to push yourself to progress, to be the best version of yourselves, essentially.
Yeah, there's always someone out there that's going to doubt you or be a naysayer or talk garbage about it for whatever reason. And usually that's coming from a place from their own ego or their own self-doubt. And people want to paint people in a box. So when you go outside of that box and do something that they wish that they could do, of course they're going to talk down about it. Or do you have any? Were there any naysayers or anyone that did you have any of that to deal with?
I don't think that there was any one person that was like, hey, this is, stupid or whatever. But it was more or less like, I almost, because you talk about turning the volume down, like I rather just turn that volume all the way down and not even tell people I was doing it. So I didn't even have to listen to it. Yeah. Right. Like I just don't even want to listen to it. I might as well just turn the volume down. People don't need to know about it. Not that I am a big kind of step back from social media user anyways. I will post, but it's not every day, all day. I like to disconnect a lot from my telephone. I'm a big put it away and don't take it out for multiple hours because we're so connected. And so that was part of it too, is I just didn't want to have to post all the time. So no, I don't think there was any one specific person. I think it was just I didn't want to deal with it. So I hit mute rather than letting that come into my brain, because I'm a female. So I'm also not as great at compartmentalizing as men are. I don't compartmentalize as well as you guys do. And I overthink everything. And so I didn't want to have any kind of person say something that would cause me to overthink what I was doing or second guess myself. So I told the people around me that I knew that would either support me or push me, right, in both ways. So that's where I kind of stood with that. I knew Lorenzo was going to support me because I asked, I said, hey, I need your help with this. I knew that Craig was going to support me. Well, because Craig was like, I need you to be my support too. We got to do it. And then when you came in, I knew you were going to support me. And then Katie. And so there were very few people in that little inner circle that I felt could push me in the right direction. So I'd rather keep it with them than open it up and have all these people and then overthink my journey. So I was like, no, I don't really want to deal with any of that. So I just didn't say much.
What was the biggest, takeaway from your journey last year? How did it improve your life? How did it enable you to get through 2020?
So mentioned before, I'm a pretty structured person. Yes, I could fly by the seat of my pants, but I like organization. Chaos it's just a lot. So I think what 75 Hard did is it really made me kind of structure my day. It made me kind of check the boxes, make sure you have this done every day. And so I was able to kind of craft that time management, even going into COVID, right? So going into COVID, where our lives kind of were thrown in for a loop, having something like that continue to help me. Not only okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to come home, I'm going to spend this 2 hours doing virtual learning with my kids. We're going to eat lunch. I have 3 Zoom call meetings this afternoon, and then we're going to go do X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to walk in the evening. It kept that level of structure that I needed when we were in a time where we were so unstructured and when the world was so chaotic. So I think, that, and it really helped me read. I enjoy reading, but the things that I've been able to take away from some of these books have really put things back into perspective of what's important and what's not important, and kind of keep me in that state of level-headed when we were in a year of such uncertainty. And that's what I really enjoyed about it, is that it kept me level-headed across the playing field. Did I have days where I struggled? Absolutely. 2020 was incredibly difficult for me. I'm a pretty extreme extrovert, and have no problem being around a lot of people. And so to be told you can't go do stuff, and to be told they want you to be at home, and to be told we couldn't travel back to see our family in California and things like that, I really, really struggled on that avenue. But having things like, okay, your meditation during phase 1, make sure that you are doing your 3 powerless tasks, make sure that you're doing, all the tasks at hand, really helped me stay level-headed during a time of such uncertainty. So I was able to achieve a lot of the goals that I had set for myself over the year, which I think was really cool. And that's kind of continued to push me into an avenue where, like, I have students that want me to go become a teacher now. I have an avenue for things that I want to do. How do I want to better myself in 2021? I've already started to make the goals that I want to do next year. So that way I know that I can be successful.
It's cool to be in a group where we're doing this daily work, but then we talk about like deeper conversations, this nugget that we got from our personal development reading, or we talk about our goals and how we're gaining traction through those, like doing the critical tasks. Like when you get in the other phases and you start incorporating those, that really gave me a lot of momentum in a lot of the projects that I was working on. I mean, that's really one of the reasons that we're here talking today. Like, this is a project that I'm, trying to create. And, while so many people were really struggling with 2020, I made a list of like my top 10 accomplishments for the year. And I really personally gained a lot of traction. It was specifically because of doing this program. Because when I started, I was in like not a good mental, positive space. And it really just kind of shifted focus in my mind. And then on top of being in a group of people where we're just working on something together, cheering each other on, was just really, really cool. That having that community, that group of people to lean on and have deeper level conversation. We weren't talking about the president. We weren't talking about COVID that much. We were talking about positive things, right? And what we're going to achieve. And having that space is very important.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's really helpful when it comes to doing, like, setting your goals, right? And having goals to set and doing things like that. It put me in a forward momentum. And so it's continued to forward. And 2020 was a super difficult year for a number of people, but I've made a lot of movement into the goals and into that kind of person I want to be through doing things like 75 hard, because your mindset shifts from, I don't really want to do that, like, I'll just do it later, to like, no, I have these tasks at hand, and in phase 1, when you have your 3 critical tasks every single day, it, for me, like, it gave me a sense of, a couple days, it was like, send 3 gratitude texts to people that you don't talk to on a daily basis. Man, that opened up so much conversation. And I was like, it's the little things. They don't have to be these crazy big tasks, but I wanted to make sure that I showed people gratitude, because, I want to live in a life of gratitude rather than something that's really kind of pessimistic. I want to be really optimistic. So it was like, if I can show my gratitude to people just for being in my life, or just for having an impact in my life of some sort, that helps me. Or, I have had it on my bucket list for, I don't know, my whole life, to run 1 marathon. Well, I got roped into running 1 marathon with all you crazy people. Well, how cool is that? And when I've ever done that? Absolutely not. I would talk myself out of it and be like, man, not that serious. But, I turned my mind off and I was like, well, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm able to be more vulnerable too, which I think is really hard for me, because I will close the door so you don't see me in a vulnerability state. Right. But I've been more open about my struggles, or the fact that I have completed something like 75 hard, or, hey, I am a strength and conditioning coach at a high school, being confident in myself to be able to go out and tell people things like that. I largely attribute that to just the accountability group that we have, the tasks of 75 hard, the reading of the books, because I picked up books I probably never would have read. I mean, I would probably look at them and be like, oh, those are cool. But then I probably never would have read it. So just the ability to have those little nuggets. When I look at 2021, I'm like, man, I want to make 2021 personal development wise as good, if not better, as 2020. Because I feel like I grew so much in 2020 personally, and in that development standpoint, that's why I'm like, man, I want to make 2021 even better.
Yeah, this gives someone the structure to be able to do that. Once again, I really like the choose your own adventure aspect of it. You get to pick the diet, you get to pick the workouts. It's an exercise in time management. It's an exercise in mental toughness and fortitude, because there's times that you just don't want to do it, but you got to do it anyway when you're not feeling well or when you're traveling. And it just gives you, our life is dictated by, many of the habits that we've developed for ourselves. This gives you a structure to develop positive habits. So instead of, drinking a bottle of wine and watching The Bachelor, well, I can't do that. I'm going to drink this gallon of water. I'm going to go for a walk. You can really flip the script. And for a lot of people, that 1% change can really turn your life around and make some significant impact. You don't realize some of the habits that, for me, it was the drinking, realizing that, 1 or 2 beers over a long period of time, kind of fueled some depression that I had. And, on some nights, a beer or 2 might lead to a couple more, and I wouldn't feel as optimal the next morning. I might skip a workout. These little things kind of compound. So it's kind of, keeps you on a path. I'm just putting my desk. Keeps you on a path of progress. So it's one thing I appreciate about that. You talked about books. Was there any book that you have in mind that you recommend to someone? Indistractable.
Yeah. So we live in a world now where this thing literally never leaves our body, right? I always joke with my students that, how the heck do you forget they'll come in to train and they're like, oh, Coach Steph, I forgot my shoes. I'm like, how do you forget your shoes? They're like, oh, I put my Crocs on today and I just didn't put my shoes in my car. And I'm like, that's weird, because your phone's in your hand, right? Heaven forbid we don't forget our phone, but we can forget our shoes, right? And I'm like, that's just a weird, So this book, I read it from Stephanie Heart, and I am willing to book share this with somebody who wants it. Super duper great about time management. Really big on this, choosing things that move you in the right direction, giving yourself kind of that 50-10 window. So 50 minutes of work and your 10 minutes of break. And when you make yourself indistractable or unavailable to people for 50 minutes and you do your work, you give yourself that break and you forget how productive you can be within that time frame. Learning how to time block your day and really kind of taking inventory of your day and saying, hey, maybe I do have this hour where I sit around and scroll, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all these different things, the news. That's one thing my husband is a news junkie. He'll just scroll. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. But this one's too, it's just choosing things that are worthwhile in your life. I really, really liked it. And I really thought that I had some really cool things. And I liked it too, because it talked about it with your kids. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes I get so concerned about doing so much for other people outside of the 4 walls of my home that I don't necessarily give the 3 people in my home, aside from myself, the most important people I should give my time to. So that was really good for me to be able to time block that as well. I think Indistractable is a really good one. He came out with a book before called Hooked, and it talked about technology and how hooked we are on technology, because that's what we use for everything. I mean, you can't go into a school right now without some kid having an iPad or a Chromebook because we went virtual, or we did all these other things. And so Indistractable I thought was really good because it made me kind of reevaluate what I was doing and how I would time block my time and set myself up for success. So that one I think was probably one of my favorite ones. And Brene Brown, she had one called Braving the Wilderness. I've only read a couple of her books. Sometimes I feel like they go in circles, but I really liked that one because it talked about the ability to stand on your own by yourself. When you have the ability to brave the wilderness on your own, right? That's when you have the most growth. When you essentially put yourself out there, that's when you grow the most. So I really took a lot away from that book as well. So I like them. They're all really good.
I'll have to pick up that Indistractable. It sounds good, because as a performance coach, it's one thing that I talk to people a lot about. These devices are great. However, they are causing a lot of people, they're designed to capture your attention. These big social media companies, they want as much time as possible. They want your eyes on here because that's how they sell advertisement, and that's how the media gets everyone so spun up, is because they're basically become addicted to these things. People literally wake up in the morning, and they pick it up and they start checking their email. They start scrolling. They start watching the news. Those are the three things that I tell people in the morning, first hour of the day. Do not check your email. Do not check your social media. Do not check in the news. That first hour, block that time off for yourself. Then maybe pick this thing up. But so many people are so addicted to these things. I catch myself scrolling quite a bit, and I got to be, it's addicting. It's designed to be that way.
Well, you hear it a lot too. This is mine's on do not disturb, but it'll be like, well, this is my alarm clock. And I'm a Simon Sinek follower, and he's like, go buy one from the store.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't wake up to it. But that you're utilizing that. We have a Google Home in our bedroom, and I just set the alarm on the Google Home. Like, hey, Google, set my alarm for 5:30 tomorrow. Okay, alarm set. And then you put your phone in the bathroom, or you put it out in the living space, and it actually becomes this really great habit where you're not sitting there scrolling. Because I do that too. Before you go to bed, you scroll and you scroll and you scroll and you scroll, and I'm like, well, now I'm awake because I'm like, so.
People literally wake up first thing in the morning and they write something derogatory about the president or the president-elect or what. It's absolutely crazy. Like, you wake up, you should not be waking up thinking about these things. That is a sign that, hey, we may want to detach just a little bit from these things. And I see that when I see that on social, it just makes me cringe a little bit. I'm like, oh, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult to break that habit. And if nothing else, what 2020 has really taught me is the value of time. We all have the same amount of time. How we use that time, is really the difference maker from people that are wildly successful to those that aren't. And I've had 6 people in my age group that has passed for one reason or another: car accidents, just a variety of things, non-COVID related, but enough to it kind of rattled me a little bit. I'm like, okay, it was kind of a wake up call. Every time I hear these things, my heart breaks for their family. But just a reminder that, life is precious. It is fragile. It's more fragile than I don't know. Just, we get so caught up in life and the day to day. And 2020 was a reminder to me that life is precious and that we need to manage it better. And so that's what I do. I really enjoy working with people to, stay focused on what matters. It's okay to be distracted here and there. It's okay to watch some Netflix, but when it becomes out of control and you're missing out on a lot of opportunities to connect with those around you, you're missing out on moments that could really add a lot of value and happiness to your life because we're distracted on trivial things that don't really matter, So, and I always enjoyed talking about time blocking with you. In fact, you got me hooked on my latest planner, the Law of Attraction Planner. And I really appreciate time blocking because it is our most valuable asset. We need to do a better job of stewarding that because it's going to run out. And that's why I tell my kids, you really got to get a handle on your time because, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, and I want them to be able to have those skills to manage that better. So good deal. So let's talk about if someone's interested in 75 Hard, they're on the fence about doing it or not, because there's a lot of people that are thinking about it, but they're kind of scared. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give someone that might be on the fence? Because we were all there. We were all on the fence. I was on the fence. You were on the fence. Why should you do this? And what would you how would you encourage someone to take the leap?
Honestly, just do it. I think that's the beauty of the program is that it is a choose your own adventure. And I think that's what makes it so unique, right? Like, you are not put into these crazy little box parameters of you have to eat like this and you have to do this and you have to do this, right? You really get the chance to choose. If for your 75 days you want to walk and do yoga every day, then walk and do yoga every day. If you want to, have, I don't know, some high intense workout for one and restorative yoga for the second one, then do it. I would not recommend doing too high intense workouts for 75 days because your body's going to probably start shutting itself down. But I think that that's the benefit of it. You get to choose kind of your own adventure. And I think that's incredibly important. There's so many benefits of drinking a gallon of water. Is it hard? Yes. Like, I would lie if I said it was easy to drink a gallon of water every single day. Sometimes you forget, right? You get busy, you move, and you get caught in a meeting at work, or you're doing X, Y, and Z. Set some timers in your phone. We know we don't leave our phones anywhere. If you set that reminder, it just prompts you to kind of remember. I think more than anything, for that mental fortitude to make you stronger, I think 75 hard is a great way to do that. We can all say, like, I'm mentally tough as it is, but 5 tasks over 75 days with 0 room for error, it really kind of challenges you to get past that mental block in your brain of, I don't really want to do this today. You're not able to utilize an excuse. There's no excuse. You either do it or you don't. And so I think that's where, for me, that mental piece, you don't have to be in the best shape to do 75 hard. You can pick whatever you want to do. They say that, movement equals quality of life. So when you're moving your body, your quality of life is much better. When we live stagnant lifestyles, our quality of life tend to decrease. We move our body and we're able to be healthier. And so by moving your body twice a day, doing your 2 workouts, drinking your gallon of water, and choosing some form of nutrition that, it's going to change and fuel your body, and it's going to give you that positive sense of quality of life. And that's a big one for me. We live in an era and we live in a world where we're so down for the microwave effect. We want this instant result. That 75 hard gives you that really great journey where you get to kind of go over that typical 6 weeks. If you ever seen people do we're going to do a 6-week challenge. Well, that's great. But what happens when your 6 weeks are over? When you have to push it out 75 days, you're talking 2.5 months. That really, really, really puts that place of habit in. And then you find yourself doing the same kind of challenges you would do and same kind of tasks, even when you're done, because you've created this positive habit. And then you tend to move your body more. That's what I've taken away more than anything.
Yeah, the health and wellness aspect, if nothing else, the pandemic should be an eye opener for a lot of people that if you optimize your health, you're going to live a better life. You're going to be able to withstand diseases better. If you're not going to optimize your health during a pandemic, well, when are you going to do it? This is our society is really struggling with just health and wellness, and it's difficult. The cards are stacked against you when you go to the grocery store. It is very, very difficult to make good food choices. However, when you're around like-minded people that can help teach you and educate you, and we share, trade secrets of how we can get through, the diet that you follow. I've done numerous diets, but that Fresh Start diet and learning some methodologies from you has really helped me sustain this diet over a longer period of time than I ever had any other diet. We talk about diets which you consume on a daily basis. It doesn't consume. Diet doesn't. It doesn't necessarily mean calorie deficit all the time. We throw the term around diet like budget, but it's what you eat on a daily basis. But by cleaning that up, you start looking at food as fuel and realizing that, you can eat healthy and you can eat delicious foods. And I got that Instapot this year, and following you guys, I've learned a lot. And it's really, not only am I eating better, but by me eating better, my kids are eating better. And I noticed that it's between that and the water that's really improved my energy level overall significantly.
Well, and they talk too, I was reading a couple things about drinking water, and when we drink water, our recovery is better, right? We sleep better, and we, our skin is clear, our mood is better, we have better clarity. And it's just because our body is made up so much of water. So when we're actually putting water back in it, we're able to kind of push back on some of that, and we're able to function better. after 75 hard, there was a couple days where my water intake was so low, and I woke up and I was like, I don't feel like, I just feel groggy and I feel like bleh. And it wasn't for any reason other than like, I didn't drink enough water that day, and you don't realize that, my skin, I actually recover a million times better just from anything when I drink water. Yes. Is drinking a soda, does it taste better? Sure. Have I heard I don't like the way water tastes? Yeah. But like, it's good for your body and it's the one thing you can do. I mean, it doesn't hurt you to drink water right now. So
I found after about day 30, day 40 of drinking a gallon consistently, I start to get thirsty again. Initially, I was like, oh, I can barely get this in, but you do eventually start to get thirsty again. And I do notice that I had a sip of Sprite the other day from one of my daughters, and it burned my throat because I hadn't had that in such a long time. I forgot, like, your taste buds kind of change and your sensitivity to certain foods change. And I find things to be incredibly sweet now. Like if I have like a piece of cake or something like that, I can't eat a whole piece anymore. I used to drink diet soda a lot. I can't even drink a full soda anymore. It makes me sick. I'll drink a little bit of it and like it, but it's too sweet. Your taste buds begin to change. And by having that, you're going to not indulge in those bad foods nearly as much when you start to change your taste buds and things like that. So
well, and I think there's a thing about balance too, right? Like when you're on 75 hard and you follow your specific food intake, if you don't want to use the word diet, if you follow your diet or your food intake, whatever your lifestyle changes, you've got to have a little bit of sense of balance too, right? So if you love sweets and that's your favorite thing and you want to have sweets and all these things, well, then find a way to fit that within that parameter of whatever your food intake is, right? So the food protocol that you and I follow typically has like no gluten, which really, I don't mind not having gluten. It doesn't hurt me to not eat pasta and bread. I don't really care. We're a Hispanic family, so we eat a lot of tortillas. But even with that, I'm kind of like, like I could go without it if I needed to. I'm not a big sweets person, but I like salt. I'm really big on salt. So being able to find things that give me that salt intake, like sodium is important for your body, like it's a thing. So like being able to eat like something salty. And yeah, do you need a little bit of a sweet something? Sure. Then maybe you use, agave over pure white sugar or coconut sugar over, or like you want to make these cookies that are, compliant or whatever, then maybe you find a recipe that uses different ingredients over what you're typically used to. It's all about, I think too, like having the mindset that you're ready to make a change and you're willing to do a little bit of extra work. And that's where I think it's a big one. You've got to be willing to do the extra work.
Yeah, it's you're developing a new habit. You're learning new methodologies of cooking. And one thing, I read this somewhere, or heard it somewhere. It's like a lot of times we get caught up in the word diet. So we think of the things that we can't have, but take a look at the things that you can have and start looking at ways to optimize that and creating new dishes. And the internet right there, you can look up all sorts of, there's apps out there. You plug in the ingredients and it'll give you a list of things that you can create with it.
Yes.
It just takes a little bit of work and effort, but once you start changing your mindset and you start trying these things, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot more, new options available to you. Don't get caught up on what you can't have. Get caught up on, the parameters and start looking at new methodologies, creating new dishes and things of that nature. And that's what I like about.
I think what's hard too is, trust me, I live it, is the, like, I don't have time, right? Like I don't have time, I've got kids and I work and they have sports and like, but I think that's where the importance of time blocking comes in, and you and I have talked a lot about that cook once, eat all week book. Like, I swear if I could buy that for every person, I would just give it like, here, have this book, because it's an hour of prep on a Sunday when we're typically a little bit less busy, maybe, or whatever day you choose. And then you're really kind of prepped for your 3 dinners during the week. And then all you do is plug and play 20 minutes and your dinners are done.
Yeah.
But that's kind of within that same, like, the ingredients are all, pretty good, but it changes the shape of the foods. And it's learning to think outside of your box and kind of giving yourself that opportunity. You have to time block or find ways to kind of create those healthy habits. If it means you sit down and prep what you're going to eat on the weekend or whatever day you need for the following 4 or 5 days, and then you go to the grocery store or you do Walmart grocery pickup, so you don't even have to go into Walmart because you may be tempted. Maybe you do something like that, but I think it's that planning. It's that planning mentality of, I want to achieve this goal, and I want it to be a sustainable goal that I can sustain long term. What do I have to do to be successful? I am not a bland eater. I cannot eat, chicken breast and rice and, I don't know, asparagus every single day. I can't. I'm like, this is bleh. But finding recipes and looking up different ways to cook food that I know is good for my body and my kids and my husband, and feeding my friends, but knowing that it's within these parameters, and getting to, like on our Sunday dinners, getting to give you guys stuff that I've tried, that I'm like, hey, I tried this new recipe. Tell me what you think. I think that's really cool too, because then that's just one more thing in the pocketbook of like, hey, here's another thing we can eat, or here's another recipe I can share with other people.
When people say they don't have time, what I hear is, okay, we don't have our priorities in line, and we probably have a little bit of distraction and probably some obligation. And we need to shift some things up, because if you truly want to make the change, you will make the time to do it. Oftentimes it's going to require effort. It's going to require learning something new. And that's not always comfortable for people. But if you truly want it, you can make it happen. And that's why I think it's easier when you have a community of people that are willing to help share. And once you start, you really are the average of the people you surround yourself with. Once you're, if you're around a bunch of people that smoke and probably aren't working out, you're probably smoking and not working out. If you're around people that are, doing power athlete, CrossFitting, running, you're probably around, your friends are probably doing the same thing. So
jumping in the spring because it's cold and we have to do our 10 minutes or 5 minutes of cold showers.
Yeah, we go jump in the spring
after
for
a run.
15 minutes. Yeah.
How you doing, Stephanie? I'm fine. I'm freezing. It's so cold.
Absolutely. So we're just over an hour. I've got one more question for you, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. What does the term "do hard things" mean to you?
I was thinking about this last week after Craig had finished it, and I was like, God, what the hell does "do hard things" mean to me?
That's what we do around here.
I know. I was like, man. Honestly, for me, I think when I think of "do hard things" is like to reach for the unattainable, right? So if I have a goal in my mind and I'm really on the fence, like it should go for it, right? And if you're going to fail forward and continue to fail towards that goal. But that's what it is for me, right? Like find a goal that's big and fail forward and keep going.
See, that's a huge shift in mindset, because you said earlier how you had this fear of failing, and now you're going to flip the switch on it. Like through failure is where you're going to learn a lot more life's lessons. You're going to be able to achieve more. Failing is acceptable. It's not okay to fail and then repeat the same mistakes. But when you fail and you learn, that's where failure is handy. And that the most successful people in life fail, and they fail often. They just don't make the same mistakes over and over again. So there's a difference between failing and being a failure.
Yes.
So
and everybody's going to fail.
That's awesome.
At something I say, well, everybody's going to fail at something at some point. Like that's just life. You're always going to fail at something, but are you going to fail forward?
Yeah, and don't let it dictate your life. Like a lot of people get hung up on that failure, and they get hung up on that, and that's not healthy either. So, well, hey, Steph, I appreciate your time. I love getting to know you a little bit more and having this candid conversations about who you are. We talked about 75 Hard and your journey. I'm glad to be on this journey with you. And just thanks for taking the time out today to talk about these things. Yeah,
thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it a lot.
No, awesome. Well, I appreciate you. Now we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. That's all I can say. In the meantime, thanks if you're listening to this. We appreciate it. And in the meantime, keep doing hard things. And I think we've got another interview lined up with Lindsay Livingston next, and I got a few other people lined up. So excited about that. So, all right, guys, thanks for those that are watching, and yeah, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
All right.